It's Kelly from Business Tasmania. I welcome you to our event today, which is how to get started in sales and marketing for small business. So I've got the pleasure to be delivering the event today with one of our business advisors, Rob Gouty from Interlink. I'll talk to you about the advice service that Rob actually delivers on our behalf through Business Tasmania very shortly. And so today's session, I'll actually be doing a short presentation to start with on all of the great support that you can access through the Business Tasmania service. And then I'll be handing over to Rob to actually talk about sales and marketing and everything involved. So this session is recorded. You can go back and watch it on our YouTube channel, tell all your friends about it. And we'll also be sending out the slides, so all of the slides that you'll see today, tomorrow. So no need to madly write everything down while we're going through. So at that point, what I'm going to do is share my screen. Um, so it won't be one moment while I just get the slides ready. Can you see those slides, Rob?
Yep, they're looking great.
Yep.
Intro to Business
Wonderful.
Tasmania.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So the Business Tasmania service is the part of the Department of State Growth. And so we're a statewide service. So any of you listening who are thinking about starting a business, you might be dreaming, you've got a great idea, you've got an idea, you don't know whether or not it's feasible, whether there's customers that will be wanting to buy what you want to sell, or you might be in business 1 day, 10 days, 10 years, any industry, any size of business, you can actually contact the Business Tasmania service, tell us your story, and we'll work out with what the very best solution is to meet your needs. We sit within the small business unit within the Department of State Growth because small businesses are the majority of businesses within Tasmania, so well over 97%. So some of the services that I'll actually talk about today, or actually the majority of the services I'll touch on, are for our small businesses. And that means if you're employing less than 20 full-time equivalent staff, you can access these services and programs. But if you're out there and listening and you're running a big business, or you work in a big business, there are other ways in which we can support you throughout the government. So please get in touch. So don't worry about that if you are running a bigger business. So we exist to help you as much as we possibly can to run your business on a day-to-day basis. And so we do that in many different ways. We have our finger on the pulse of what's available throughout all levels of government. So we save you time, which effectively saves you money. It saves you stress. You don't have to call around and work out, look, who is it? I can't remember the name of that service. Who can help me with this problem or this exciting new opportunity? You can call the Business Tasmania team, or email, or contact us at events. We're often out running face-to-face events as well as online events. So we can actually work out, well, who is out there that can support you wherever you're at in the life cycle of your business. So as the slide shows you, we run lots of events and workshops. Tomorrow we'll send you a very short survey, which we'd love you to complete, so we know what you thought of today's session, but also you have an opportunity to tell us what other events you might like us to run, whether that's in your local area or whether that's online. We have fabulous business advisors, and we have Rob here today, and I'll talk more about his service. We have access to digital mentors, and we have a whole host of extensive information tools to help you with any stage of your business. So just get in touch with us and we can work out what is best at that right time for you. The Tasmanian Business Advice Service is an offering that many businesses who contact us take advantage of. So Rob delivers the Tasmanian Business Advice Service and also the New Business Support Pilot Program. So both of these offerings are at no cost. So if you're a New Business Support Pilot Program person or accessing that service, you either have had an ABN, Australian Business Number, for less than 12 months, or you might be thinking about starting a business and you don't have an ABN yet. So you can access 2 hours of free advice to get started, and all confidential. No concerns there, confidential and no cost for the 2 hours. Then once your Australian business number reaches 12 months old, you can then go on to access 5 hours of free advice each financial year from expert independent business advisors like Rob. So we have advisors all around the state. You don't need to worry so much about all the names of the organisations because you can actually go to the business advice website or scan the QR code and you can have a look at all the bios of the advisors. And this is really flexible. You can actually self-select who you would like to see based on the advisor and their experience. And so you can nominate who you'd like to see any part of the state. If they're close to you in location wise, you can have a face-to-face appointment. If you pick someone who's at the opposite end of the state, you can have an online appointment with them. So lots of great options there, and they can help you with anything at all business related. And it can be to helping you with cash flow, it can be helping you with how to employ your first staff. The list is absolutely endless. So if you're sitting here today and you're listening to Rob's presentation and you think, gee, I'd like a bit more help, I would encourage you to access the advice service offering because they can then help you further with what Rob's going to cover or anything else at all that you might be grappling with, you might be excited about. So the advice service is fantastic, fantastic offering. I'd like to show you another example of a service that you can access. If you employ staff, the Employer of Choice Assist program can really help you with any performance issues, help you to create a great culture, help you with contracts, help you with ideas to how to attract staff, anything at all that's involved in employing staff, you can actually access this free service. So you can be seeing a business advisor for business advice. And then if you can make the time, if you do employ staff, you can be accessing this service as well. Another new offering, we have the Workplace Relations Helpline. So when you contact the Business Tasmania service, if you have a quick question you just want an answer to, like you might want to clarify an award for one of your staff, or you might just have a really quick question and might be around performance issues, or you might be having a workplace conflict, we can actually connect you with experienced people who can experts in that field when you call the Business Tasmania service. So that's good to know. So if it's relatively straightforward, you can certainly ask that question over the phone line. If it has a lot of complexity, that's when we get you to sit with one of the Employer of Choice Assist team to really nut through how they can help you with the challenge that you've got, or how you can create a better workplace for your employees. So that's another example. Digital skills. So it's so very important, as no doubt Rob will touch on, that having a strong online presence when you're running a business is very important. And the digital space is always changing. So many of us need support and building on our current skills in the digital space to make sure that our customers are finding us. We're standing out from the crowd, from our competitors. So our Australian government colleagues in the digital solutions team, which is delivered by the Van Diemen Project in Tasmania, offers a very low cost 4 hours of coaching for $59. And so in addition to that coaching, you can also access workshops they run and webinars and also an online portal as well. So again, they have mentors all around the state specialising in digital skills. To complement, we have our business advisors all around the state. You can access digital mentors through this particular offering as well. And so they all have different strengths in different areas. So again, it is for our small businesses, and you need to be, for this particular service, a for-profit business. Whereas with our business advice services or contacting Business Tasmania, you can be a not-for-profit as well as a for-profit business. And there are some criteria that will be waived, some circumstances where the $59 can be waived as well. quick screenshot of our Business Tasmania homepage because I just want to point out two things. You can see in the middle of the homepage, you can subscribe to our newsletter. That's a great way of staying informed of when there are new funding opportunities, which many people call us about to ask if there's any new grants, what's on offer to help me at my current stage of my business. So the newsletter is a great way to stay informed so that you know when something's on offer. And just quickly, the funding and support tile in the homepage takes you through to a section on different funding opportunities. So we keep our ear to the ground on any funding opportunities for Tasmanian businesses. So many people prefer to call us, and then we can have a conversation, work out where you're at with your business, and let you know if there's anything on offer that you're eligible for, or you can go here and have a look for yourself if you prefer. So the Business Tasmania service, we can be contacted via, all of the ways on the screen there. And I'd encourage you to keep us in mind because we exist to help you in any way that we can to get started in business and to run your business as well. So that's a quick overview and some examples, but by no means is an extensive list of what we offer, because what we do is when you come through, have a chat and work out, well, what is relevant for you at that time. So at that point, if we don't have any questions, I think what I'll do is I'll hand over to Rob to take over from here with the rest of the sales and marketing event. So thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay. Hang on. No, sorry. I've got to share first before I turn the slides on. Okay. There we go. Some lovely trees.
See some beautiful trees. Gorgeous.
And there we are.
Perfect. We can see the slides. Thanks, Rob. Perfect.
Right, thanks, Kelly. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Today, we're looking at how to get started with sales and marketing for small business. Developing your sales and marketing is about moving from getting your first sales and through to moving into a broader customer base. So marketing, it's a broad field. So this presentation is geared around small businesses that are just getting started and don't have a big budget. With a lot of small businesses, when they get started, you're going to have to do a lot of this work yourself. You don't have a lot of money to spend. So that means you have to have an understanding of what marketing is about and have an understanding of what the results that you are trying to achieve. As I said, this is general advice. And as Kelly described before, for the specific needs of your business, that's what your one-on-one sessions are for. But at this stage, this is an opportunity to think through framing up what your marketing strategy is, what your marketing approach is in a way that you can understand. So let's start with some simple questions that frame up our strategy. Who will buy what I am selling? How and when can I reach them? That is the basis of what your marketing strategy is. You're in business to sell things. Your sales and marketing strategy, particularly when you're doing all of it yourself, needs to be simple enough for you to carry around in your head. It needs to be simple enough to implement with the limited resources that you have. So, the foundations of our sales and marketing plan begins with 4 simple questions. Who? Who are we trying to reach? What? What are we trying to sell them? How? How are we going to reach them? And when? When do we go about reaching out to our customers to sell our products? So with these 4 questions, they neatly divide into 2 areas as to how we organise our activities. The first phase is the planning phase. Before we start marketing, throwing up our website or jumping on social media, handing out flyers or whatever it is, we need to do some research and planning. We need to have clear and concise answers to those first 2 questions. Who are we trying to reach? what are we going to sell them? So let's start with who. Thank you, PowerPoint. Who? Who are our customers? It's an absolutely crucial question that defines our business. Without customers, we are not in business. No customers is no sales equals no business. If you've been in business for a while, your invoice book will tell you who your customers are. If you've just started a new business, possibly having come from a job, you're perhaps in a situation where someone else has done all this work for you. They've brought the customers to you, and then you have done the job. It is now your business, so not only do you still have to do that work you're doing before, you also have to do those other activities that went with that other business, which is bringing in the customers and connecting with them. If you are at that starting point, you need to be intuitive and broad. You need to create a customer profile around who those people are. We want to start with some market research, online forums. There might be blogs about your particular industry, or you're in an industry that has an organisation that is putting out reports. These can be very valuable insights as to who your customers might be. You can review your competitors' websites and their marketing material. See who they're trying to target. You can simply talk to people, and that's a good idea. Whether it's family and friends, talk to them about your product, how they might connect to it. You can also test out the market and learn. You can use AI to ask simple questions, which might start framing up these ideas for you. But one thing I will say, when you are at this point, you are starting out thinking through the customers. Try not to be too specific too soon, unless you've got a very good reason to be so. Often we can get a very fixed idea about a very focused customer target group. Unless we've validated that some way, we are potentially excluding customers who might be attracted to our business before they're ready to engage with our business. So, why do we start with who? Is the who big enough? It's actually a very important thing. When we're in business, obviously we need to make revenue. We need to be in business, we need to make a profit. If our offering is so specialist that our who group is too small, we might be in trouble from the outset. Knowing who they are will tell us where they are. So at the point when we start reaching out to people and starting to market to them and providing information about our business, knowing who they are will tell us where they are. Whether we have a bricks and mortar store and they're walking past the front door, or they're very interested in tourism, for example, and they're all on Instagram, knowing who they are will give us a sense of where they will be. Also, knowing who they are will help us to communicate with them. It will help us think through the ways in which we connect our product to who they are, what their mode of communication is, and how we can present our product in a way that is relevant to them. So it's crucial to understand the customer, communicate to their needs. As I've said before, this is no longer just a job. It is a business. It is your business. And you, as the business owner, has to take responsibility for achieving all these aspects of actually getting yourselves to the position where you are able to do the job that your business has been set up to do. Understanding the customer will help you communicate to their needs and clarify how your product connects to them, what values your product brings that connects to what their needs are. Okay, so we've started with the first question, who? Once we've got that, we can move on to the next important stage of the planning phase. What? What is your product? Now, I noticed one of the questions in the survey was the difference between a product and a service. In many ways, they are the same. It is an offering we have to the customer, and regardless of whether it is a product or a service, it is crucial that we explain this in a way that is understood by the customer. If they do not understand what we are selling, then they are not going to buy it. Whether it's a service or a physical product or a well-established product or something that is completely new, it is firstly crucial that we get across what that is in a clear and concise fashion, particularly in the digital age where people are bombarded with information, they're scrolling quickly, they're seeing so much. There is not an opportunity to put a novel in front of them to read. We actually need to get to the point quickly, and we need to be clear about what it is we're selling. Now, at the point where we're starting a small business, part of the reason this is very important and many businesses overlook it is because we look around at the advertising we see around us. Many of the big companies that we see advertise have got many things that we don't have as a small business. They have much bigger budgets to start with. They have access to quality creative people, but they're also at the point where we already understand what their product is about. One of the most popular bylines people talked about to me is Nike. They just love it. Just do it. The thing is, we already understand that Nike makes running shoes, and thus when we say just do it, it has some context and meaning. When we're starting out as a small business, we don't have that luxury. We have to give the customer the context of what is happening with our product before we start putting the values on it. So, for example, you might have set your business up. Sustainability is very important to you, and you might feel the need to lead with that. But if you haven't given your product context in the first place, what does that sustainability mean? Are you doing accommodation? Are you making products? Are you generating energy? There's all sorts of things. So we have to give the customer the context before we give them the values. Customers won't buy what they don't understand. If your product isn't clear, your customers won't buy it. Remember, in most cases, you're very new to these people. If they're confused, they are not going to make a purchase. They are not going to buy what doesn't make sense. If customers don't get it, they won't get it. So you need to make your product, your pricing, and your values obvious. Your customer should instantly know what it is you sell, how it helps them, and why it's worth it. Don't take your customers' understanding for granted. When we set up a business, we're in it 24/7 almost. We're thinking about it constantly. We're doing stuff with it in all the time. And because of that, we start to take our own understanding of our business for granted. We cannot do that with our customers. They know nothing about you, so we have to start from scratch. So defining your product or service gives your business clarity, consistency, and direction. What is the product or service? What problem does it solve? What features, benefits, and characteristics does it include? This guides your marketing and sales to target the right customers, communicate the value, set realistic pricing, and it's not just realistic pricing from the point of view of the customer and what they can afford. It is realistic pricing from your point of view as the business owner. If you have a pricing regime for your business that you are not going to make a profit from, you're not going to be in business for long. And then when we start to think about our product in detail, this is where we start to think about the values that differentiate us from our competitors. And that's where we can begin to get a competitive advantage. So when we develop our marketing message, identifying these key buying reasons is to clearly define where our product sits in the market. And this is the bridge between what our product is and who the people we have identified as potential customers for our product. It shapes the brand that makes sure we are connecting with our audience in the right way. It makes us thinking about crafting a marketing message that speaks directly to the customer, to what they're thinking about, who they are, and how our product connects to it. Thinking through the reasons why they might buy. And it can come in all sorts of many forms. And as a small business, it's important to think about these, because when we think about big business, we simply cannot compete across every reason. We have to find buying reasons that give us an advantage over bigger, more established businesses. What might some of these things look like? Identifying why customers will buy from you, not why you think they should. Always be in the customer's mindset. What are they thinking about? What do they want? Convenience. Well, that can be an example where you're a local supplier and therefore you've got an advantage over a nationwide company because you're close to a specific group. You might be able to deliver a level of quality, particularly if you're an artisan of some sort, that is, once again, not available in high manufacture. Speed. You're in the neighbourhood, so you can actually get to the customers quicker. Price. Once again, a big organisation may need to charge a lot more to provide the service, and you can compete with them on price because of, once again, your size and your locality. Trust and reviews. Often, being a smaller, personalised business can help you deal directly with customers, and that builds up trust, a more direct trust with the customer, which leads to great reviews through Google and things like that, which brings credibility to your business. And that is often something people are looking for when they're going to buy. Personalisation. Smaller organisation, you can perhaps be focused on particular things. Local services, once again, if you're in the neighbourhood, you've got a direct connection to people. Or maybe you've got specialist expertise, particularly in consulting or other professional services, where once again, to engage a big firm providing those services can be very expensive, and you're often getting generalists, not that specialist. So your expertise is valuable. Simply the usefulness or effectiveness of your product as it relates to what people are doing. So when you think through all these ideas, what we're trying to do is deepen our understanding of our product, have a sense of how we're going to explain it to people in a clear and concise way, and how they are going to connect to it. At this stage, we're just trying to get the mechanics together. We're not about being exciting or anything yet. It's important that we're clear first. And as I said, it's not so important for Nike to be clear from the outset. We know they make running shoes. We know that Apple makes computers and phones. That's fine. Your business is not there yet, so we need to set that context first. So what we're offering is clear. So now that we're clear about the product, we can put a price on it. And it's very important we do. Now, one of the questions I'm asked all the time, do I have to put the price on my website? No, you don't have to put your price on the website. And I know people who are involved with consulting and things like that, they are nervous about publicly displaying what the prices are. But when you actually make contact with the customer, when you are talking to a potential customer, you have to be very clear in your own mind. There is no room for ambiguity. How the product is structured has to have a clear price attached to it. And when the customer inquires about that, it needs to be a question you can answer directly, either via a quote, over the phone, an hourly rate, whatever it might be. It's not a discussion. It is something that you have to decide on as part of your business plan in order to be viable. And as part of your sales and marketing, you have to communicate it clearly to the customer. If there's ambiguity there, then that's where trust is starting to fall away from the customer. So the easiest way to think about this is, what is the unit item that I'm providing, whether it is a coffee cup, a cup of coffee, or 1 hour of consulting services? How do I put a price on that? So that's where we want to know, what is the unit price? There's no room for ambiguity here. As I said, it's very important that we are consistent with our pricing across all customers. One question I often get is that some customers inquires, I want a discount, I want 20% off or whatever for that. If you can afford to do that, if you can afford to do that as a special offer, and that's an incentive, you should be offering that to all of your customers. So every customer feels like they're being fairly treated. So how do we go about creating this unit price? Well, firstly, if we're making something, we've got materials. This may vary from a cake maker that makes very extensive use of materials to delivering a workshop like this, where I actually don't have very many materials. I might need to send an email, but that's not actually a material cost. So we need to get an idea of what the inputs are required to make the service that we're going to provide. Physical products, obviously, are a lot heavier on the materials than a consulting type product. Labour, something like consulting, once again, very time consuming, and that's often where a lot of the price is going to go. Particularly if you're just starting out with a service of some sort, having an idea in your own mind of what you want to earn will set the basis of what you are going to need to charge in order to achieve the revenue and personal income that you are looking to achieve. And make sure you're covering off all of the aspects of where labour is involved. It's not just the things that you are doing or the things that directly go into the product. Think about all the labour and activity that is required to get the product from your warehouse to the customer, whether it's couriers, packaging, mailing, all of that sort of stuff. Not just the physical materials involved, the time it's going to take you to do that. You need to factor that in to how you price your product. And then finally, overheads. These are both direct and indirect. The electricity to run your shoemaking machine, that is going into the cost of every pair of shoes you make. Your website, which you're going to typically have as an annual cost to your business, is not directly related to the product, but it needs to be amortized across all of your revenue. So that means things, particularly sales and marketing, website, any of those activities need to be built into the price of the product in some ways. And then once we understand what our materials, labour and overheads are, then as a business, our goal is to make a profit. So without a profit, our business is not sustainable. So with that unit price, we go, how much do we need to make on top to be keeping our business ticking along nicely and being in good shape? So once we've got this price, it's important to think that any pricing strategy we use keeps this in mind. The reason for this is we may use price as a strategy for developing our marketing or enhancing our relationship with existing customers. When we do this, it's crucial that we know what the full price is and what the full price is that we need to charge. So the simplest approach is what we've just talked about, cost plus pricing. Here's the cost, I've got some profit on top, there's the pricing. We might think about penetration pricing. This is the idea. We've just started out. We're nowhere in the market. We really need to get into the market and let people know we're here. You might be opening a bar, for example, and you go, first month, September, half price pots to between 4 and 6 or whatever it might be. So that is where we're using a lower discounted price in order to attract customers in. Very similar to discount and loss leader pricing. Now, when we do this, it's important that the actual price is always visible, always in the background, always understood. If you're going to go $5 beers Friday night as an attraction, people should know that's 50% off. They go, this is a special offer. Leave it in this way. If you don't do that, at the end of September, when the price goes back up to $10, people think you've put the price up. So you've actually created a disadvantage for yourself. Whereas if you communicate the other way around, where you're going, this is our starting discount, they feel that's where they are getting some value. And when things return to the normal pricing, that's when they go, all right, well, I understood that was coming. Competitive pricing. Now, this can be a real advantage for businesses, particularly if you're making it yourself. Seeing what your competitors are charging and pricing it accordingly can bring benefits to your business. I'll give you an example. You might have a cafe and you go to a baker. The baker is charging you $4 a pie and you are selling it for $8. But the baker, it's only costing them $2 to make it. So the baker goes, well, what if I open up my own cafe? I know that I can charge $8 for that pie. And all of a sudden, there's $6 for me to cover my overheads and profit. Whereas the cafe down the road, there's only $4 to cover that sort of thing. So that is where you can think about coming up with a pricing regime that is beneficial to your business. Some of the more advanced things like dynamic pricing, that's a bit hard for a lot of small businesses. But tiered pricing is another way of creating value around the price of our product. At its simplest, tiered pricing is simply small, medium, and large. Small, the cheapest. Medium, typically the price we want everyone to go for. You know, that's where we feel there's great margin. And then the more expensive pricing that anchors that middle pricing as a reasonable price, and once again becomes the most popular choice with people. Freemium, that's another one we can use. We're very familiar with that, particularly with digital services, where we might start with a free account with Buffer or whatever it might be, but over time, the limited services provided like that is not enough for the customer. They love your product. To go to the next level with your product, they need to start paying. But they've engaged with your product in the first place because you've had a free option, and they've become loyal customers and they are ready to engage with your business at a more profitable level. And also bundled pricing, where we've got a variety of services, and by grouping those together, we can discount the overall price as a way of getting larger amounts of selling to a particular customer, where they go, if I buy in bulk, or I buy this service with this service and this service, and I get an overall cost advantage, that can engage that customer more with your business. So at the end of the day, your business strategy and goals will drive your pricing structure. You don't need to use any one of these strategies all the time, or you can move between different ones. Regardless of that, if you are not clear in your own mind of what your unit price is, you won't be able to come up with an effective strategy. You won't be able to measure whether your pricing strategy is going to work in the long term. So at this point, we've gone and done some market research. We've thought about how we're going to enter the market, not just with what our product, but with who are the people we are going to try to reach with our product. So at this stage, we've done some of the key planning we need to get our business off the ground. From here, we move into the execution phase. Now we understand the product, we're ready to take it to market. Whether it's a bricks and mortar store or an e-commerce business, we need a home. Our goal is to get the customer into our home, whether it's the shop or visiting our website or booking a consultation where we actually go and see them. So now that we're clear and concise about what it is we're offering, we're ready to captivate them and also to be compelling in a way that they are going to buy. We need to be clear and concise in the first instance, and then we move on to the how and when. So let's start with the how. The flow of customers begins with considering where the customers might be. Our communications within those locations should attract them into our home. As I say, whether that's an in-person consultation, a bricks and mortar store, or online. Let's look where these customers might be. Understanding your customers is essential to choosing the right way to communicate and connect with them effectively. Different customers will use different communications channels. Some people will be in a digital space where we can use digital marketing, whether it's social media, email, websites, online, SEO. There's a whole range of options, and we'll touch on that in a bit more detail later on. Or we've got a traditional business where we're going to use letter drops, flyers, advertising, signage, networking. We've got people walking past our front door. You know, we can be out in the street holding up banners. So it's important to consider where those people are and the demographics of those groups, so we consider what are the most effective communication channels and the most effective communication strategies to reach those people. So what are some of the things we're going to think about in terms of considering where these people are? Age, obviously an important one. Starting with the idea of what the age group that connects with our product will start to lead to who those people are and where those groups are. If we're talking about a younger audience, under 35, they'll generally prefer social media. They're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on Snapchat. Once again, very dynamic. That can be changing all the time, so you need to keep up to date. But as of speaking, this is a fairly reasonable idea of where these groups of people are hanging out. They're using messages like WhatsApp, and like just about everyone in the digital space, they're using email. Older audiences in the 35 plus will generally prefer some of the older social media, perhaps Facebook, a little bit of Instagram. Once again, it comes down to industry by industry. For example, Instagram is very popular where there's visual information involved, whether it being tourism, angling, the arts. Typically, they're more likely to be involved with traditional media. They're watching the TV, they're listening to the radio, they're reading newspapers. These are, of course, areas that are changing very rapidly at the moment. TV, radio, and newspapers, they are all in decline as more and more people get their media and their content through digital means. So, age, location, urban areas. People in the cities are more likely to engage with digital mobile first channels. We're on the bus, we see everyone's got their phone out. It's very much a way people engage. Yet, when I go up into the regional rural areas, there are still some people who have old flip phones. They listen to the radio. They are not as engaged with that digital space. So they're relying on radio, community newspapers, and to some extent, email. Thinking through the income and education of our groups is important too. Higher income, educated groups, particularly existing within a professional or a higher quality, more expensive product, tend towards LinkedIn, email and blogs. More consumer level, lower income segments might tend towards more local radio, SMS, social media and flyers and those sorts of things. Thinking through other aspects of the audience will help too. Digital literacy. Confident tech users will more readily be using mobile apps and live chat, advanced features on Instagram and Facebook. It's important to think about this in terms of the customer, because what we do ourselves, what we are personally confident with, is not necessarily the case with all of our customers. I've seen many people fall in the trap and say, oh, well, I'm on Facebook. I love Facebook. I can do all this great stuff on. Everyone's on Facebook. That is not the case. When we look at some of those other issues around age group, digital literacy and so forth, there are people within those groups who are just as interested in our product that are not interacting through those communication channels in the same way. There are less tech confident users, and they may, for example, like phone support, face-to-face, printed material. They're still interested in your product, but they're from a different group that you see yourself in, and therefore you need to be prepared to communicate in that way that's going to connect with them. We then think through the type of products we're dealing with. As I said, visual products, fashion, food, travel, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, where we're doing videos. That visual content can be very powerful and effective for those visual-based products. More service-based products or business-to-business products, it's quite different. It doesn't necessarily translate to those visual spaces. But professional environments such as LinkedIn, particularly in Tasmania, because we're a small population down here, and it's an area where many people are in that space and they're all mixing in together. It can be a very valuable resource to consider. And that's not just if you're a professional service. You might have a restaurant, for example, that is a high-end restaurant that's frequented by business people. You might not think of LinkedIn as an opportunity to reach those people, but it certainly is. They're also using email. They're also participating in professional engagements such as webinars and workshops. They're the sorts of things you can go along to and network with people who are either potential customers or have insight into the industry you're moving into. The nature of the service you're providing is also relevant. Whether it's an urgent utility service, that becomes how you might reach your customers. For example, if you're an emergency electrician offering 24-hour call out, people are in crisis. The power's gone down. They haven't engaged an electrician for 10 years. They get on Google, 24 emergency electrician. A perfect place to be using Google search ads to connect with people around an urgent need on a specific service in a very direct way. Other things to consider in terms of the customers we're trying to reach and how we're going to reach them. The time of day and their lifestyle. Busy professionals might prefer email. They can check anytime. Stay-at-home parents, for example, might brace Facebook during school hours. Thinking through the nature of the customer, how they're engaging with their environment can help us build our strategy in thinking what time of day that is the best to reach them, or the sorts of things they participate in that are relevant. For example, the soccer club down the road has lots of advertising billboards around the perimeter of the oval. If you're going, those sorts of people, whether they're into sports or it's school groups going down there, that can be a good in-person place to reach those sorts of people. So let's dig down into some of these channels in a little bit more detail. In the digital age, this can be the first one that people forget. Yet, in many ways, this should be the first one you start with. In real life, or IRL, as people like to say, or traditional means of communication. Examples: family and friends and neighbours. Many people often overlook this. They don't see them as necessarily customers or people that they engage with, or they can make the other mistake, which is assume that their family and friends know absolutely everything about what they're doing. And therefore, if they need the service, they're going to reach out. This is not necessarily the case. And 9 times out of 10, people might, particularly family and friends, might have a vague understanding of what you're doing, but having them clearly understand what you're doing is a way of starting out and getting customers from the outset. It's not necessarily that they are going to be your customers, but they are potentially a great source of word of mouth. Community. Depending on the sort of industry you're in, there's inevitably going to be a community of some sort in Tasmania or throughout Australia that you can hook into that will help get your services out there. And of course, if you've got bricks and mortar, foot traffic is a very valuable resource. The more people walking past your door, the more you can directly reach out to them, the more success you will have. So when thinking about these groups of people, how do we connect with them? Well, I think for most businesses, beginning with the really obvious things like having business cards, postcards and flyers is essential. When you meet someone who's interested in their business, in your business, having a business card to give them is an incredibly cost-effective way of making a connection. We can think about traditional advertising. Signage and branding, of course, is very important. It not only gets your name out there, it sets the tone and often the services of your business. And once you're starting to establish this, this leads into one of the most important sources of business when you're starting out, and that is word of mouth. People telling other people about your services in a positive way is a great way to lead new customers into your business. For many businesses, word of mouth remains a powerful way of gaining new customers. So with thinking about word of mouth, effective communications not only helps us connect with our customers, it helps our customers pass the word around. If your customers easily understand what you're doing and can easily explain it to their friends when they're looking for some similar services, that is how you can harness word of mouth in a quicker fashion. So that's the in real life. As I say, the digital realm has just exploded over the last 20 years, and our communication channels there are really extensive, and a few aspects of this really deserve some closer attention. So let's start with the first one. As I said before, we talked about the emergency services. One of the first things people are going to do is pick up their phone, go to Google, a search engine, and put their request in. Not just Google, there's now DuckDuckGo, which is becoming increasingly popular, particularly because of privacy. And Bing, well, being a Microsoft product, they have extensive coverage because of the products they offer. So how do we connect with people through search engines? Well, we know how they work. You go to a text box, you put in search terms, and then they get the results. So there's a direct relationship between the results you get and the words people put in. So in some ways, we call these keywords. So that's the idea of, let's say people are looking for a brown leather suitcase. If your communications to the word in the digital space has the words brown leather suitcase, from Google's point of view, they have seen those words and see you as a relevant connection to that sort of product. So thinking in terms of those keywords helps to connect what you are offering in a way that connects with the thinking of the customers. That thinking of the customers where they're sitting down at the search engine going, what am I looking for? What do I want? So in terms of thinking about this, there are two additional aspects to think about. With search terms, one of the things we want to do is get up as high of the ranking as possible and get as present in front of the customers, relevant customers, as we possibly can. There's a couple of ways of doing this. One is ads and AdWords through Google, where people put in a search term, Google says this search matches your ad, we're going to put this ad in front of that person. Now, it's quite a complex process, and often Google's main desire is to sell advertising. So this is where you need to understand the process that are happening and what people are searching for. And this is where Google gives you tools like Search Console to see what terms people are searching for, how effectively you relate to how the customers relate to those particular search terms, and how your product is answering to those keywords. It also gives you insights into what search terms are people getting ads displayed to. Now, this is important because when you look at the search terms, there can often be giveaways that was actually not a good search term to connect your ad to. For example, people might be searching for hospitality and bars. You go, oh, well, I've got a bar, I want to be in that search. But when you look at the search in more detail, what they're looking for is a job to work in a bar, not a bar to go to. The people looking for the job, that is not what we want to be spending putting our ads in front of. People who want to go out to a bar is much more relevant. So in understanding how the words that describe our product connect to the product and to the customer, we can start to build an online strategy that addresses this. And then from there, we move on to SEO, search engine optimization. It's about building an understanding of the words that people are looking for and how those words surface through our online presence, primarily our website. All right.
Rob, I might just jump in there. We had a hand raised before, but it's down. So I just sort of remind everyone, if they do want to ask questions, please raise your virtual hand and I'll introduce the question to Rob, or use the Q&A to ask the question. I can ask the question on your behalf. So do feel free. Thanks, Rob.
No worries. Did they want to jump back in, or I'll just keep going?
Just keep going. It looks like the hand went down again. Yep. Thank you.
Yep, no worries. Social media. This is certainly a new innovation of the 21st century. And not only is it very new, it's incredibly fluid. So what was a great strategy 7 years ago is not so great now. So let's talk about some examples. Facebook and Instagram, Twitter and X, LinkedIn, TikTok and YouTube. They're all valuable ways of connecting with people, but we need to keep an eye on how this works. In fact, we talked about freemium pricing before. This is actually something that many social media platforms engage in. 7 years ago on Facebook, many people said, this is just incredible. I just do a post on Facebook, 10,000 people see it. I'm getting huge customers. I love Facebook. I don't need a website. Yet over the past 7 years, we've seen the effectiveness of that approach decline. And that is because Facebook going, well, okay, we've got the people hooked in now. They're using Facebook. They're doing all this stuff. We can now start charging them money to boost their posts and get them in front of their audience. So all of a sudden, in the past, we had 100% organic engagement. All of our followers saw everything we did, and it was wonderful. Now, organic engagement is down below 10%. To reach that bigger audience, we need to pay. So, social media, it's a fast-moving space. Very valuable for connecting, but we need to keep an eye on how the investment we're putting in is bringing us returns. Okay, so if we're in these spaces, how do we connect? Photos, graphics, and videos. Once again, the more exciting they are, the better they are, the better people are going to be interested. And this is not just about being picture perfect and having highly professional photos. Often being spontaneous and exciting with a poor quality photo is more effective than a highly polished photo that looks static and lifeless. So, in presenting the videos, we've also got opportunities via telling effective stories and having effective captions to our posts. In some ways, it's worthwhile thinking of every post is like an ad. Our caption should read like a headline, where people see the headline, go, I want to read that story. I want to connect with that. So that's another aspect we can use with our social media to connect with people more directly. Hashtags is a way of categorizing what we do in a way people aren't looking for us, they are looking for something. For example, they've come to Tasmania to see a wombat. They're not necessarily looking for your tour company, but hashtag Tasmania, hashtag wombat is a potential way of connecting with people who are not thinking about your business, they are thinking about the service they are looking for. At mentions, it's mentioning other users on the platform. That's a way of building communities, acknowledging customers, sharing experiences, and doing collaborations with people, which is another way we can harness social media to our advantage. Also, there are many tools around social media, scheduling tools such as Buffer and Meta to automate and make the best use of your time. This can be the situation where you go, well, this is all very time consuming and I've got 3 different channels I need to get out to. Well, if you think about scheduling, if it's appropriate to your product, you can do things like, well, I'm going to sit down for an hour on Monday, schedule out 7 posts across the week to my Instagram, my Twitter, and my Facebook, or my LinkedIn, or whatever it might be. So I am consistently posting, getting out there and getting in front of people. We have to remember that people on social media are not there 24/7. They're not sitting there waiting for our posts. They're on at specific times and our posts are going out at specific times. If we're only doing 1 post a week, the chance that the coincidence between them being online and your post being in front of them is greatly reduced. So particularly when you're starting out, you should be trying to increase the volume of what you do as much as you can. And that is for 2 reasons. The reason I just described, once you're putting yourself in front of people more regularly, But the second reason is when you start doing this, you often feel like you don't know what you're doing, because you probably don't. It's like playing a musical instrument. When you first pick it up and start playing, you might sound terrible. But with practice and seeing what people respond to, you can actually improve the quality of what you're doing. If you've done 7 posts on Instagram for the week and you find, well, that 6 of those were duds, but people really related to that, that can be very valuable information about what is used to connect with customers. All right, what other options have we got? Online publications and blogs. For example, news sites, review sites like TripAdvisor and Yelp, related specifically to accommodation and hospitality. So depending on the industry you're in, being involved with those sites can be valuable. Also, industry publications. Once again, if you're in the professional sphere, things like LinkedIn are where people are having more complex and longer conversations, doing more detailed posts around professional issues that can attract people to it. Places like Substack, where you can post blogs, more detailed information, and create a destination for your business, can help on that front as well. And there's strong communities in all of these places. So how do we connect here? Long form content, essays and articles. That's a good place to start. And typically, if long form content is something you're able to do and it's relevant to your product, more often than not, long form content effectively breaks down into smaller posts that can be great for posting across Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever it might be. So, for example, you might be a quality control engineer and you've written a longer article called 7 Ways You Can Improve Quality in Your Business. That's the long form content you want people to read. Gives you credibility and creates a more direct connection. But then you can easily break that down into 7 posts across the week. Quality improvement, number 1, and then you can step through that. You can also use press releases to reach out to newspapers like the Mercury. And as I say, throughout Tasmania, there is lots of community newspapers that are worth being part of. Email. It's a standard system that is widely used. I don't think there's anyone here today. I don't think you could possibly even be here today if you didn't have an email address. The great thing about email is if you use it effectively, you are connecting directly to your customer. You are crafting your message as you would like it to be to get directly to the customer. When you're on Facebook, Instagram, any social media, any other platform controlled by other people, your message is getting mediated through them. It's getting changed in some way. It's not being presented exactly the way you want it. It's getting presented the way Facebook would like to do that. But with email, which is directly from you to your potential customers, that is where you really have an opportunity to craft your message in a way that puts you forward, is 100% focused on you, and relates more directly to the customers. So, how do we connect? Newsletters and updates. You know, if you're having a sale, for example, there's a good reason to email out to your customers. There might be some event, press releases, or you have an event coming up. So if you're a venue, you might have events. You're a winery, you've got a new vintage coming out. There are relevant reasons to be in contact with people. As I say, email lets you craft compelling content directly to your customers. And of course, in the digital space, there are great tools we can use that can help improve how we utilize our time to get the most of our connections with our audience. So tools like MailChimp and MailLite help you manage your audience and can really streamline the process to, once again, be as efficient as possible, make the most efficient use of time in this new small business area we're in, where all of a sudden we've got all these different things to do. Making effective use of our time becomes crucial. So I just want to make a few notes on email, because these are common questions that come up, and I think it's worth considering. Considering your email address, because it is a fundamental tool in the digital age. Try and choose wisely. How to connect. Have an email address that makes sense for your business. You're a cake business. You might have a website called supercakes.com.au. If your email address is info@supercakes.com.au, that's credible. It's real, really connected to your business. It's very individualized. Yes, there's some costs associated with it, but if that is something you can afford, that is the best approach. If you're just starting out and you haven't got a domain name, or you're not ready to take that step, at least have a Gmail address. Once again, it's seen as reasonably credible in the business space and is okay to use. So info.supercakes@gmail.com, that's okay. Not as good as info@supercakes.com.au, but still fine. In all things you do, you have to try and make it easy to remember, easy to access, easy to type in. If people are searching for things, words that are easy to spell are always better. Coming up with clever names and clever acronyms or clever email address, like using Supercakes 457, which are not explicitly connected to your business, can be confusing for people.
We have a question at that point, Rob.
Sure.
We've got a hand raised, so I think functionality should be enabled now to ask the question. So go for it. Let's see.
Georgia, I have enabled your microphone. You need to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello? No, I'm not hearing anything.
The unmute is the mic should be towards the top right-hand side of the screen. We might be having trouble with the unmuting. Okay, well, we might, let's see. Okay, we might keep going and just perhaps if the mic is well, if you're able to unmute, feel free to jump in. If not, Rob, we'll just keep going until you can unmute.
Keep going.
Yep, great.
Okay. So in thinking through how we're going to reach our customers, we've already touched on 6 key areas that all got a lot of activity involved with them. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to understand. So from that point of view, what I was saying before about practice is important, but it's also worthwhile thinking through some of the tools that can help us get off to a running start. One of the tools available to us now is AI. Whether it's ChatGPT, Grok, Copilot, whatever it might be, we can use these to help us get a start with something that we might not have experienced before. For example, we might not be experienced at content and ID creation, whether it's website copy, social media posts, email campaigns, marketing messages, whatever it might be. We can use things like ChatGPT to start creating ideas to give us something to bounce off. The same goes for products and product overviews. Often they can bring up features that we once again have taken for granted. We didn't think of mentioning as part of it, and that can become relevant. It's a potential source of target audience insights. We can also use it for graphic and visual design. And also, sales and marketing plan generation. Now, one thing I'll say with my experience with AI, particularly with some things like sales and marketing plan generation, often you do this and you look at it and you go, well, that looks very obvious. But what they've actually done is help collect those ideas and formalize them into the written word. With everything we do in business, it's very important to transfer our thoughts down onto paper, into the written word. Formalizing it into words will make it clear to us whether it's clear, and it also gives something coherent to share with other people who will also be able to say, oh yes, that makes perfect sense, or I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. So until those words are written, we can feel we've got it all under control up in our head. We really don't. Getting it down into an effective set of words to describe our thoughts makes those thoughts more concrete and more easily to relate to other people. And in thinking through this, we're thinking through the idea that we are telling a story to people. So when we're at this stage, we need to collect together a big story about what our business is about. So the big story around our business is the basis of what we are going to tell to our customers. But before we tell it to our customers, we need to tell it to ourselves first. We need to clarify what our business is about, what our product is, what our price is, all of that. We need to be clear in our own minds as to what our business is about and how we're going to offer it to the world. So this is where we're gathering together the raw ingredients around all of the aspects of our business. This is the how, why, what, when, and who of your business. This is to clarify the story to yourself. It's very important to do this. As I say, when I meet with a lot of businesses, they can talk about their business quite extensively and go on for a very long time, but they haven't quite distilled it down into a compelling small story that's easy to give to people. So what I say at this point with the big story, it's really not about quality yet, it's about quantity. It's about bringing together all the raw materials that have brought us to this point of being in business. It's not just our product, it's not just who our customers are going to be, it's all the experiences, it's the journey that has got us to this point that can potentially build value and worth into our product because of our experiences. It's crucial to gather that all together, but this is not what we're going to tell the world. We're just telling ourselves. They're not going to read the novel. We need to distill this down into a small story. And the small story, this is for your customers. This is the main overview of your business. This is where we address what I see as the 4 C's. I talked before as a new small business, clear and concise about what our product is crucial in the first instance. But to attract customers, we need to move beyond that. It's about being captivating. It's about making what we do as exciting and as interesting as we possibly can. And then once we've captivated our customers with our story, the final stage is compelling them to act in some way, hopefully to hit the buy now button. So that's the part where we need to start getting creative about how we build those captivating and compelling messages into our marketing material. So at this point, we've thought through who we're trying to reach. We know what we're going to reach them with, what our product is, and we know what channels we're going to utilize to reach these people. From there, we move on to the final step in the equation, which is when. Once we've got them into our home, our job is to tell them a story that shows that our product connects with what they're looking for. When it comes to storytelling, it's important to get everything in the right order. Once upon a time goes at the start, and they all lived happily ever after goes at the end. Anything else does not make sense. One of the biggest problems we face when we're in business, particularly when we're starting out, we're thinking very much about our own credibility or our own reasons for being there. And in communicating with the customers, we can push these things forward in a way that is getting the story in the wrong order. I talked about sustainability before. It can be a very crucial value for business people. You know, it's important that my business is sustainable. It's an important value to me. But if you push that first, if you put that out there first, and people don't understand the context of what you're sustainable about, well, they're going to get confused. The story's in the wrong order and you've lost their attention. Sustainability might enhance the value of your product, but the product is the reason they are there in the first place. So make sure you're getting that in the right order. Another aspect of this is not just being in the right order and having all the elements in place. It is about having all the elements in place. If you've designed the story in such a way that you have the customers are going to move through interacting with your business in an easy way, it's important that you have got everything built and ready to go. There is no point inviting people into your home if it's not built yet. You need to think through every step of the customer journey so you are ready to provide them with the information they need at those various points. So if that's going to mean being a website, you've got particular things you need to get across to the customer, promoting those things before that's not ready is going to confuse them. If it's not ready, it's all right to start promoting. For example, you might be an author writing a book. You could say, well, the book's not here yet, but this is what the book is about. This is who I am. I am an important person as part of this process, and we can engage with people. But there needs to be a sense of when that is coming or what it is connected to. If that is not clear, once again, it is confusing and hard for the customer to engage. Other aspects of the when. Timing, of course. As I've just talked about with the book, when will we be launching the new product or having a promotion or launching our ad campaign? Are there seasonal peaks? Are there natural timing frameworks that relate to our business? So, for example, if you've got a cafe, people are coming in and buying a coffee every day. It's a very short time span. But if you're a winery, for example, you might be picking the grapes once a year and processing them and then releasing a vintage. So there's really only every 6 months something meaningful happening. So having an idea of the timeframes around how your business works and how customers interact with your business will help you with posting and your communication schedule. Getting an idea of when we're going to send out this marketing material and newsletters to connect people. When we have an idea of this time frame, it also has an idea of how we relate to the customers. For example, when is the best time to contact with them? When should we be following up? Long-term purchases like cars, people don't want to be harassed every day. If you've got a venue where you've got new bands every day and there's lots happening, people will want to know on a daily basis what's going on. So thinking through the nature of our business and what the time frame of it will also give us some guidance as to when we're going to start communicating with the customer. So the customer buying journey. At what stage do customers need certain info? This is also about getting the story in the right order. At first contact, where they know nothing about you, awareness is important, awareness around the product. But once they've moved through the journey and they're liking what they're seeing, how do we help them make the decision? And often that decision-making process, because it comes further down the website or through other means, often gets ignored. Once we've got customer awareness, we need to help them make the decision that best aligns with what their needs are. Even if you're hiring out trailers, do they need a small trailer? Do they need a medium trailer? Do they need a large trailer? Presenting your information in a way that helps the customer make that decision means you are communicating effectively and smoothly to them. And the smoother your communications are, the smoother they will see your business as being and the better impression you will have. And then through that, we can think through when's the right time to be sending reminders, following up with demos or other aspects. And in thinking through these timeframes, we can then start putting together a marketing calendar. We can map out our monthly and quarterly activities, which might be newsletters or events or things like that. We can map out daily and weekly activities such as social media, which is more common. We can think through the things that we offer that fit into a calendar, but also how our product fits into a broader time frame within Tasmania. For example, Dark Mofo, very popular event. So if you have services that are going to connect with tourists that are coming along to that, being aware of those events coming up can help you focus your marketing around particular groups of people that are coming to Tasmania for certain events. So, having gone through this, you start to hopefully have a very simple idea of how you're going to approach your marketing. In summary, your sales and marketing strategy is this. Who are we selling to? What are they going to buy from us? How are we going to reach them? Through what channels? And when do we need to tell them? If you've got clear answers to those 4 questions, you are on the path to having a marketing strategy for your business that you can both understand and then that you can execute. Something that you can have an action plan. With a clear, concise, captivating, compelling message, you are ready to take your business to the world. As always, keep it simple. Keep it simple for 2 reasons. Make it something that the world can easily understand, but also make it something that you can easily do. If you make it too complex, you can actually put a roadblock in front of yourself so you really can't get going. So keep it simple, both for your sake and for the customers. From here, we have the plan. Develop and document a communications action plan. Think through the who, what, how, and when of your business and actually write out an answer to each one of them so you are clear in your mind. This will help you build a roadmap of how to attract customers, increase sales, and hopefully grow sustainably. By documenting your plan with clear activities, deliverables, and a timeline, you are helping to take a lot of the pain out of it. It's not about sitting down and going, oh dear, I have to post on Instagram today. I've got no idea what I'm going to do. I'm going to agonize for hours and not make much progress. If you already have a plan of what aspects of your business you need to communicate to the customer, you simply go, well, I'm a cafe. Today I'm talking about my sandwich special. Tomorrow I'm talking about the coffee. The day after I'm talking about the new bike rack I've just put in. You've got all these different aspects of your business. You're ready to communicate to people. And with those, you don't have to waste your valuable time agonizing over these activities every time you arrive at them. You've got a plan around the themes and ideas you need to communicate. And then from there, you can most efficiently use your time to get those communications out there. Another reason this is important in the visual age with our mobile phones is when we integrate our marketing plan into our day-to-day thinking about our business, we will start to see marketing opportunities where we never expected them. We need to communicate things. Our incredible barista is making these incredible coffees. They make the beautiful coffee and go, oh, I could use that in the post. You grab out your phone, 2 seconds later, you've got a photo. Because you're thinking about your action plan for how you're going to market your business to capture those visual images spontaneously and in an exciting way that relates to the customers, becomes integrated into your day-to-day activities, and you're creating more valuable content for your customers for them to interact with your business. So, just a few of my favourite quotes. A goal without a plan is just a wish. When I talk to many people starting out a small business, they do have big wishes. And that's great. That's very inspirational. But we need to focus that into a plan so we're getting some clear and consistent forward momentum. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. So finally, one last thing I would like to touch on is how we achieve these things. There are many tools, digital tools online, and having some awareness of that can once again help us execute these things in a meaningful way. Some of these tools, there are many free and low-cost online tools that will help you develop and execute your business plan. As I say, you're moving from a point where this was your job, but it's now your business. So all of these things that you need to do yourself. So utilising online tools that can help you get there will get your business operations into a good place from the outset. So, as I said before, email, absolutely fundamental. How do we manage this? Digital workspaces. Google Workspace, very popular one. You can connect your domain name and have an effective email address through a Google Workspace. That's a paid service, or if you just want to go to the free, you can just have the @gmail.com address, which, as I said before, is okay, but not the best. Microsoft Office 360. It's a very similar product with very similar tools. Tools for creating documents, spreadsheets, slideshows like this, and for, once again, managing email. Paid service that's fairly affordable for most businesses. Project management. Basecamp is a great one for small businesses. It's a very simple, intuitive tool for which there's free and paid services. Once again, it helps you get organised. Canva, I think everyone's familiar with that. Once again, free and paid services for managing your graphics, and lots of tools and templates to help you get started with that visual communication. Websites, both Wix and Squarespace offer free and paid solutions. Analytics and oversights. With everything we do, we want to measure the outcome in some way. We want to have some idea that what we did shifted the needle. If we've spent money on a Google ad campaign, we want to see and our goal was to drive traffic to our website. We want to see that that actually happened. If we've started to emphasize search terms on our website, we want to see through Google Search Console that people are actually searching for that and coming to our home, whether it be the bricks and mortars or the website. Online presence. I think in this day and age, I can't think of any business that shouldn't have a Google My Business profile. It's free, and for many people, that's the authoritative piece of information about your business. It tells people who you are, where your website is, what your contact information is, what your opening hours, all that fundamental information that people will need to interact with your business. And finally, email as an important means of communication. MailChimp, MailerLite, both great tools, free and paid accounts available. But once again, a lot of these freemium products, you need to keep an eye on them. They're changing their offering all the time. I feel like when I started on MailChimp, you got 3,000 free users, which then went down to 2,000, which then went down to 1,000 and is now sitting at 500. So this can be a real inconvenience for your business. With freemium products, they're changing all the time, so keep an eye on that and consider other products if you feel you're not getting the value that you once were. All right. Any questions?
It's an opportunity to ask questions through the virtual hand or the Q&A. That was a fantastic presentation, Rob. I'm sure that's given everyone a lot to think about and a direction moving forward. So we've covered a lot of ground there, Rob. It was really, really great.
Yep.
Great information and lots for people to think about. And we'll email the slides out tomorrow to everyone who's joined us.
Yep.
So it doesn't look like we've got any questions, but you know how to contact us through the Business Tasmania service, and we can arrange for you to have an appointment with Rob if you'd like to access the free business advice service. So thank you, everyone, very much for your time. I know that everyone's so busy, so making that time to understand more about how you can promote your business, reach customers is fantastic. So, look, thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Girl.
Have a good